Okay, a ton of breaking news coming in the last couple of minutes or so, especially when it comes to Triple H, who has just announced his in-ring retirement in an interview with ESPN after suffering his cardiac event last year. We also have an update when it comes to Shad Gaspard being revealed as this year's recipient of the 2022 Warrior Award. Plus, Cody Rhodes, his AEW presentation in WWE. Is it going to happen? All this and more in this breaking WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into, especially with this big one. This was the one I was specifically waiting for. I record my videos a lot earlier on in the day and then post them later on, but I had to wait because once we heard the news that Triple H was going to be having this interview with ESPN, we knew, okay, something is going to happen. He put out a tweet earlier today, essentially saying, look, I haven't spoken about my health for a while. I'll do an interview. I'm going to be doing an interview today to update you all. He said, quote, been a while. I'll get to actually the thing up on the screen. I'm all over the place. He said, it's been a while since I've given an update on my health and what the future has in store for me. He said, check out my conversation with Stephen A. Smith today on First Take. Full interview debuts tonight on Stephen A's World on ESPN+. So we knew something big was going to happen. Look, we haven't really heard anything since Triple H sustained that cardiac event last year. Obviously, that cardiac event news came out of nowhere. Everyone was very shocked, worried what was going to be happening, what was going on with Triple H. WWE were very hush about it realistically, and it's none of our business to really know those details, frankly. But it subsequently coming out after from various sources that this was a really serious incident and Triple H was not going to be wrestling again. But Triple H has confirmed it, and let's face it, Triple H, one of the greatest and biggest names of all time. So the fact that Triple H has announced his retirement is a really big deal. Now, in this interview, Triple H told Stephen A. Smith on First Take that he had viral pneumonia and was actually coughing up blood, and Stephanie McMahon, his wife, had told him to get checked out. He did. He had fluid in his lungs and around his heart. His ejection fracture with his heart plunged as low as 12, which basically is near death, essentially. And it turned out that he was basically in heart failure and he had to be rushed to have operations immediately. Triple H also said he now has a defibrillator fitted in his chest now. The full interview, of course, as I mentioned, will air tonight on ESPN+. But Stephen A. also said it wasn't due to COVID. It was actually due to a genetic heart disorder that he had. And again, Triple H has confirmed that he is indeed done. He said that it's it. He said that, as I mentioned, he had viral pneumonia, his lungs were inflamed, things got increasingly worse, he began coughing up blood, he went to the doctor, was told he had fluid in his lungs and around his heart. He was told to go to the emergency room immediately after getting the results as he was in heart failure. He said, quote, I was nosediving and sort of at the 1 yard line where you don't want to be for your family and your future. Now, when talking about the impact it could have on his children, Triple H emotionally stated, quote, there are moments in there where they're putting you out for stuff and you think, is this it? Do I wake up from this? That's tough to swallow. Again, he'd confirmed that, and that was a really difficult part for him to watch. And he confirmed that he will be never wrestling again because of that, because of the defibrillator. Not so much the cardiac event, which of course led to getting the defibrillator, but because of him being fitted with that defibrillator, he's never wrestling again. And that's cut and dry, and that's it. And obviously, look, this isn't the way he would have wanted to end his in-ring career. But I don't know. You never know with these people. Look, the most important thing is that Triple H is around today. Not for pro wrestling, but for his family. I mentioned this before when it happened. The news broke at the time. You can say what you will and you can say what you want about Triple H, the person, the character, whatever it may be, the politics, people don't like him, whatever, NXT, executives, power struggles, power plays. Triple H has a wife. He has children. He's a father. He's a son. And, he's a husband. And the most important thing is that he's around for them. Pro wrestling is pro wrestling. That's here, but all the family stuff is up here. That's truly what's important. The fact that he's around today, and he looked pretty much like Triple H. He looked pretty much like you would expect Triple H to look like. That's what's important. The fact that he's around to see his kids grow up, that's the most important thing in the world, especially to him. And if you look at what was his final match, televised match, it was against Randy Orton. at a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. I believe it was Super Showdown in 2019. In terms of the history and all that kind of stuff, that isn't a bad way to go out. And I know people, again, when you talk about, the greatest of all time, and you talk about the Mount Rushmore, and some people will say Triple H shouldn't be up there. He was smashed over into a position, and he's a million-time world champion, and he's not in the league of Shawn Michaels and The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan and, all of those guys and all that kind of stuff in the politics. Yeah, but Triple H is still a really big deal. Triple H is still one of the biggest pro wrestlers of all time. Drew a ton of money. Yeah, there were points in the career where it was certainly somewhat self-gratifying when it came to, the reign of terror on Monday Night Raw from, sort of 2002 to 2004, 5, and that was the Triple H show. And yeah, you do hear those horror stories, but it doesn't change the fact, again, this was a guy that was one of the most popular pro wrestlers of all time. As a heel, as a babyface, and drew a ton of money, multiple-time world champion. Was it 14-time world champion, 15-time, whatever it is, world champion. And his contributions as well when it comes to the NXT brand. The NXT brand is completely different at this point. NXT 2.0, I don't think, is what Triple H's original vision was for NXT. But the years that we had the black and gold, the years that we had Triple H's version of an independent, pro wrestling brand essentially under the WWE umbrella was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And, he could still contribute towards that. I think we should probably focus mainly on his in-ring career. And there are so many great Triple H matches over the years. So many. I mean, you could talk about, The Undertaker versus Triple H, end of an era, Hell in a Cell match. Phenomenal. One of my personal favorites is a tag team match, whether it's Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit. Raw 2001, absolutely brilliant, phenomenal match. Or when it comes to Triple H versus Cactus Jack at the Royal Rumble in 2000. Unbelievable. And the Hell in a Cell match after that, the multiple Hell in a Cell matches that Triple H had. Triple H is ingrained in WWE history as one of the greatest of all time. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. He's one of the biggest and best known characters ever. Even when The Rock hosted SNL back in 2000, Triple H was on that show. He was on the stage with The Rock. He's a big deal. He's a really big deal, and he's, again, one of the biggest and best of all time. And whilst it's sad, as I mentioned, that it's ended like this, the most important thing is that he's alive. With everything that's going on, the most important thing is that he's alive. And, it's just seeing him get choked up and thinking about his kids and his family was tough, really tough to watch. But as I mentioned, the most important thing is that he's around to, he's on the other side of it, and he can interact and he can talk to his kids, because some people don't get that opportunity. So life's precious. Life's very precious. And speaking of which, unfortunately, it's a bit of a transition here, is that WWE has announced Shad Gaspard, deservedly so, as the Warrior Award recipient for this year's WWE Hall of Fame class of 2022. Frankly, this is way overdue, and to be honest with you, the Warrior Award shouldn't be called the Warrior Award. There are a lot of very, not great things when you hear and talk about the Ultimate Warrior. I understand the look, and I understand the naming of it fits, but it should be called the Shad Gaspard Award, because if there's anyone that defines Warrior, it's Shad Gaspard. Okay? Now, WWE has officially announced that Shad Gaspard will be posthumously honored as the recipient of the 2022 Warrior Award at the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony during WrestleMania 38 weekend. It was previously announced yesterday, or had been put out there yesterday, that WWE had plans to honor Gaspard with the Warrior Award this year. WWE just confirmed the news with an announcement first reported by Fox Sports. It was noted that Gaspard's wife, Selena Gaspard, will accept the award with their son. Dana Warrior usually presents the Warrior Award each year. Now, obviously, this is why Gaspard deserves it, because he's a hero. That's the best way to describe Shad Gaspard, as a hero. Gaspard passed away at the age of 39 on May 17, 2020, after he and his 10-year-old son were among a group of swimmers who were swept away by a strong rip current while in the ocean at Venice Beach, California. First responders hit the water to rescue the swimmers, but Gaspard told them to save his son first, and they did, which saved his son's life. Shad was then reportedly hit by a large wave, and he went under. A search and rescue operation was then launched, but Gaspard's body was washed ashore 3 days later. Gaspard, of course, worked for WWE from 2002 to 2007, and returned for another run from 2008 to 2010. And as I mentioned, not much more really needs to be said. This guy is the definition of warrior. This guy is the definition of a hero. And as I mentioned, it shouldn't be called the Warrior Award. It should be called the Shad Gaspard Award. Frankly, he should have got it last year. And I don't know why he didn't get it last year. I don't know if WWE had their plans set in stone. I know Titus O'Neil got it, and maybe that's because it was in his hometown or whatever. But maybe it was too raw. I don't know. Maybe they asked the family of Shad Gaspard and it was too... I don't know. The most important thing is that he's receiving it now and he's getting the acknowledgement that he truly deserves because, as I mentioned, he is a bona fide hero. And that award should be the Shad Gaspard Award. The fact that, not only did he saved his son's life. So it's not just saving his son's life. He sacrificed his own life for his son. And I think most fathers would do that. In principle, but doing it is another thing. And he's a hero. He's a hero, and I'm glad he's getting the acknowledgement. And I hope that WWE does more than just give his family the award, because I think he deserves more for what he did. To be honest, so I was very glad to hear that. Finally, we have an update when it comes to Cody Rhodes. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is coming into WWE very soon, and two high-profile people within WWE want Cody Rhodes to be presented in the exact same manner to his AEW character when he debuts with the company. Now, according to a report by WrestleVotes, these two individuals have been adamant to Vince McMahon that this should happen, including his entire presentation. This ranges from his ring gear, theme music, and pyro. They believe that the visual impact of having the American Nightmare crossing the line from AEW to WWE is a significant deal. Of course, while it's been reported that Cody Rhodes is returning to WWE, nothing has been made official as of right now. Since Cody Rhodes' AEW contract came to an end, he has not been seen inside of a wrestling ring. Rather, the former three-time TNT champion is believed to be facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 38 this year. So, to me, this makes the most sense, and I would assume this is what WWE would do. I think the idea of Cody Rhodes coming out to his old Smoke and Mirrors theme and being like, it's Cody Rhodes returning to WWE after not doing anything in the pro wrestling business for, 6 years. That would just be dumb. And that was my biggest question is, what does WWE acknowledge? Because historically, they don't really tend to acknowledge outside people, especially in this current era. But it would be a massive, massive, massive missed opportunity from WWE to do that, and I don't see how they can. I don't see how they can just ignore what everybody knows. What everybody knows is that he was an AEW EVP. He was one of the founding members of All Elite Wrestling, and he's not the Cody Rhodes that left in 2016. He's something completely different at this point when it comes to his bleached blonde hair like his father, when it comes to his ring gear, when it comes to his entrance music. If you have Smoke and Mirrors get a pop, Smoke and Mirrors, well, Cody will get a pop regardless because Cody Rhodes coming back is just surreal and wild. But, Smoke and Mirrors will get a pop, but the, Kingdom playing, it would be unbelievable. And I don't think it's going to have the pomp and circumstance of the beginning of Kingdom in AEW because I think AEW owns that. But when it comes to everything else, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer because that is... You can't, who knows if that will ever happen again? If it will ever happen again when it comes to someone of that significance, that instrumental in the foundation, the building of AEW, coming over to WWE, we just don't know. So if WWE did that, what a blow that is to the competition. And just, not even if you want to hurt your competition, just in terms of, making buzz and newsworthy and something different, a shot in the arm to WWE programming. That's really it. That would be something that people would be talking about. That would be a true WrestleMania moment. A guy who was a founding member, an EVP of the company, returns on the grandest stage of them all, but he's AEW Cody Rhodes. He's not the old Cody Rhodes, WWE Cody Rhodes. He's AEW Cody Rhodes. That would be just surreal. And and you would look around, you would say, well, when are we going to get this opportunity again, WWE? I think they will do it. And I understand why some people would be saying, don't do it, or, don't acknowledge them, all that kind of stuff. But And it's not the same, but it's like when the NWO came back to WWE in 2002. They could have come back as, Razor Ramon, Diesel, and obviously Hogan's Hogan, but they could have come back as that. But no, they were more over as Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and the NWO. Yes, it wasn't a Vince McMahon creation, and yes, Vince might be a little bit perturbed that this version of Cody is not a Vince McMahon creation, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if it makes money and it generates buzz, that's the difference. And I think that's what it will do for Cody when he returns. I really do. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on Triple H's retirement, Shad Gaspard being announced as the recipient of the 2022 Warrior Award, and hopefully Cody Rhodes being presented as AEW Cody Rhodes in WWE. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe to Wrestle News 365, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.